Well, hello everyone. This is Omega ASMR. This evening is as a fun ASMR video for y'all. I thought that I would go through some Texas-related stuff. I'm a native Texan. I was born and raised here in this state, down here in the south of the United States, and I thought that it would be fun content for an ASMR video to be going through different stereotypes and myths and whether they're true or not, or just talking about my state, because I feel like there's a mythology built up around Texas, at the very least in the United States and to some degree internationally. I've spoken to a couple Canadians through the internet, and they've asked me, is Texas really how everyone pretends it is, or everyone talks like it is? And I say, how's that? And they say, well, you're kind of like cowboys and hicks, and I just thought it would be fun to discuss that general tendency in these stereotypes, and thought it'd be kind of fun content for ASMR. So, I am not familiar with all of the myths or the stereotypes or the jokes or all the supposed trends that we Texans share, so feel free to post any in the comments if you'd like to know whether they're true or not as far as my perceptions of them are. And I should mention before any of this that Texas is a very large state. It exceeds in square mileage most European nations, and 48 of the other states, not quite in population, but square mileage in the United States. So it, geographically, it's kind of difficult to try to establish general trends. There's some parts that are kind of deserty, and that old typical dusty cowboy, almost Mexico-looking feel with all the cacti and the very Clint Eastwood, John Wayne style movies. There is a lot of that in Texas, but that's very much near the southern border rather than central Texas or northern Texas. So there's a lot of difference there. So let's see. In terms of myths, the cowboy mythos, the cowboy stereotype, I guess, seems pretty prevalent, and that in many ways is true. There are a lot of people who are genuinely raised in the cowboy lifestyle, in the farmer lifestyle, even since coming to college and studying technical studies. I'm an engineer, technical professions. It is amazing just how many guys you'll still meet, even in higher education, that are farm boys who go home and they breed cattle and they slaughter cattle and they work on a farm all the time. And it's a very vibrant. It's not a common thing. It's certainly no majority. You don't just say there's the farm boys and then there's everyone else and the farm girls, but it's certainly here. There's a lot of that. The everything's bigger in Texas is a fun one, and that is by and large there's a little bit of truth in that, mostly in terms of the people that I've met. It's obviously not an absolute trend. You can't really do that at all when you're talking about people, but the majority of people that I meet who were born and raised in Texas are significantly taller and thicker than people outside, not in Texas. Linebackers and a general real muscle density. It could have something to do with our diet. I know we're big meat eaters down here. That kind of helps with being a big beef state. But a friend of mine who's born in New York and raised there for like the first 8 years of his life is around 5'6", 5'8", and I'm 6'4", and my other friend who was born and raised in Texas, who we live with, is 6'4", 6'3.5" really. And that we kind of find that humorous that the New Yorker, the opposite end of the country, is smaller than us, and there could be some legitimacy to that. Its diet is certainly a large part of one's early growth stages. You go to China, where so many people are malnourished. I've got, friends who've been over there, and he's just barely past 5. He barely past 5 feet. He's a young man, and he said, I stand on par with some of the adults over there. The average height is much lower over there just due to malnutrition. So there could be some truth in that. Let's see, other stereotypes. Horses. Do we ride horses places? That was one thing that a friend of mine went to France on a mission trip, and someone asked him that. He coyly responded, no, we all drive Ferraris. But that's of course not true. We don't all have Ferraris. But no, we do not ride horses. I have ridden on a horse maybe 2 times in my life. There are certainly plenty of people that do, but that is by no means a primary means of transportation. We drive cars, we drive a lot of trucks. That part is very true. It's weird not to see many pickup trucks. I could think of 2 other stereotypes. There's the guns and the friendliness. Because Texas, derived from I believe it's a Native American, I know there's tons of dialects of Native American Indians, but in the one that Texas is taken from is the word Tejas, meaning friendship. And I have found that to be overwhelmingly true. It's just how friendly Texans are. Whenever, on the occasions that I've been out of state, I've been up north, I've been to Washington, D.C., and I was just appalled at how rude people were overall. If you hold doors open for people, or ask them how their days are when you're standing near an escalator or in an elevator, or if you just, what are common acts of kindness, to me, are treated bizarrely over there. People will not call you ma'am and sir. They'll treat you as an obstacle in getting where they need to go, rather than as a person who also has desires and needs. You notice that people use their horns a lot in traffic up north, and here it's not a commonly used tool, because we're not really trying to get angry at each other. We're just trying to each get along, and we understand that the other people have desires. And I'm not trying to draw massive conclusions about the North, but it is overwhelmingly, when I talk to people from outside the state, and when I go outside the state, that there is a significant drop in kindness and friendliness that you find amongst people. And my New Yorker friend says that it's, we just swear at each other. It's kind of a fun, kind of a male bonding thing, but you swear at each other in New York and in traffic, and that's just how business is conducted. I can't imagine doing that here, to not speak politely and kindly to each other. Oh, guns. Okay, this is the most true one. Texas is just filled with guns. We love guns down here, firearms of all kinds. It's weird. It's actually abnormal. I'd say 1 in 20 is 95% of Texan men have fired a gun. If you haven't, we're gonna get you out there, because it's no official rite of passage or anything, but guns are fun, and we love having them down here, and that is very much a stereotype. It's weird to be in a house that doesn't have firearms for safety, and I say firearms plural. It's weird to only have one too. Again, this is also very dependent upon the area. There's rural, there's suburban, and there's urban, and obviously the rural areas are going to have more than the urban and the suburban, but I've been in all 3 areas. I've lived in and around all 3 areas, and I know people in all 3 kinds of areas, and that is a very, very positive trend for it's weird in Texas not to either own or have used a firearm previously. And it's funny, I hear about people talk who are clearly not Texans talk about, what if, you can't keep guns in the house because there's children might get a hold of them. And I say, well, I was raised with shotguns under the bed and a pistol in the bed and the bedside table, and I knew where they were and I knew where the shells were, and I was taught not to touch them because Daddy's going to be able to protect the household if someone gets in, and that's his job. But I knew where they were. It wasn't a secret. I never toyed with them because I was taught to respect them, and I was taught to fear them, and I was taught to use them. And it's very much a cultural thing. Here in Texas, I'd say to be around firearms, it's weird. I keep coming back to that term, but it's abnormal, it's strange, it's out of place to be unfamiliar with firearms. So, that's a stereotype. I hope this was relaxing for y'all and hopefully mildly informative. It's the internet, and that means there's a very broad sample size and audience, so I'm sure there might be some Texans who watch this and have had very different experiences in any one of these responses to stereotypes. Perhaps you've never touched a gun in your life and you're in that section, that 1/20th or so of the population who have not done so, or you want to contest that it's that rare down here. But I'd love to hear y'all's opinions and y'all's reciprocations. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that this was relaxing for you and that you've learned a little bit. So, happy tingles.